In January of 2022, Sega received an anonymous email that said, "I will set fire to the company." Over the next 2 months, they received another 11 emails from that same anonymous sender. In response, Sega held emergency meetings and even enlisted the help of Tokyo's Metropolitan Police. And in the end, they managed to uncover the person behind this string of threats. Today, I want to tell the story of the man who was arrested for threatening to burn down Sega's headquarters. Look, everyone gets angry about video games from time to time. When you're fighting the final boss, and then just as you're about to take out their last bit of health, some projectile comes and hits you from behind, losing hours of progress. I think that is a feeling a lot of us can empathize with. Online gaming is different though, because if you fail, it's not just you who sees it, it's everyone else from around the world. And that feeling is likely what fueled the anger of a 54-year-old office worker from Japan named Akira Watanabe. Now, Akira Watanabe was a player of online games, including one published by Sega, one of Japan's biggest game developers. And in January of 2022, Watanabe suffered the fate that all of us have suffered from time to time, a crushing defeat. Now, there are lots of ways to channel the anger from that, both healthy and unhealthy. But what Akira Watanabe did wasn't just unhealthy, it potentially put lives at risk. He searched the internet for the inquiry address of Sega Sammy Holdings. Now, Sega Sammy Holdings is just the company that owns Sega, and their inquiry address is a public email address that anybody across the world can use to contact the company. And right there, from his mobile phone, Akira Watanabe began to type, "I will set fire to the company and kill the employees." It didn't seem as though he was worried about leaving behind evidence. He could easily have written this email from a computer at an internet cafe and covered his tracks, but instead, he blatantly used his own mobile phone. And then, over the next 2 months, Akira Watanabe continued writing these emails to Sega. At first, you could perhaps write off his actions as a single, extreme outburst of anger. But by February of 2022, Akira Watanabe had finished writing his 12th email. 12 threatening emails to Sega in just 2 months. That's more than one a week. In other words, this was growing into a serious and potentially dangerous obsession. An obsession that had grown inside of Watanabe just because of a loss he had suffered in one of Sega's online games. And Sega certainly noticed as these emails kept on coming. Perhaps if this had all happened 5 years ago, they might have been brushed off as just a hoax, just some empty threats. But back in 2019, when one of Japan's most beloved anime studios, Kyoto Animation, was the victim of a horrific arson attack, which left over 30 people dead, things changed. Threats of any kind began being investigated much more doggedly by Japan's police, and writers of these threats were made examples of. There was no way another tragedy would be allowed to take place like that horrific arson attack. And so, the fact that one of the emails that Akira Watanabe sent to Sega even directly threatened to set fire to the company, that certainly didn't go unnoticed. Sega first held emergency meetings where the emails were discussed, and potential actions were talked through. Of course, these emails were anonymous. Nobody knew that the culprit was a 54-year-old office worker. And so, Sega immediately strengthened security at their offices, and they enlisted the help of Tokyo's Metropolitan Police. And this is where things began unraveling for Akira Watanabe. Like I said, he had left a fairly easy-to-follow trail of evidence by sending these emails directly from his phone. And as February and March continued on, the Tokyo Police Department began narrowing down their suspects. On March 18th, 2022, they found their guy. Akira Watanabe, an ordinary-seeming, middle-aged office worker with a dark obsession for sending threatening emails to Sega. He was soon taken in for interrogation, where he admitted the motive behind the crimes he committed. "I was frustrated that I lost in an online game." That was the sole reason he gave for threatening to kill Sega's employees and burn down their building. I don't know about you, but reading that, I can't help but wonder what on earth was going through Watanabe's mind. I don't want to try and psychoanalyze a stranger who I know almost nothing about, but reading through some of the online reactions to Watanabe's arrest, you see people suggesting, "Get some therapy, dude." Another user wrote, "Gacha addiction," that's a type of online gaming addiction, "is very real and can be dangerous, just like normal gambling addiction." But being addicted to one of Sega's games in no way excuses Watanabe's crime. Sending out a single threatening email in a fit of anger isn't just a crime, it's despicable. People's lives are at stake. But that's not what Akira Watanabe did. He sent Sega more than 10 threats in the course of just a few weeks. And I think that speaks to a much deeper and more intense obsession. So what will come of this case? Well, Akira Watanabe hasn't gone to trial yet, which means there is still a chance, if a slim one, that he could go free. But I would bet money against that happening. For better or worse, Japan's prosecution rate is very, very high. If Akira Watanabe is taken to court, statistically speaking, he will almost certainly be found guilty. But in this case, I think that's even more likely to happen than usual. Watanabe left a clear and blatant trail of evidence behind him, and he even admitted the motive behind his crime in a police interrogation. No, I would be confident in speculating that in 1 year's time, Akira Watanabe will be behind bars. Now, is prison the right place for him? Well, that is a very different question. You could very easily argue that what Watanabe needs is mental health help, such as counseling or therapy, not prison. But threats like these put lives at risk at the end of the day, and Japan's police seem to be looking for people to make examples of. I'm just glad that nothing came of the threats that Akira Watanabe made. Hi, thanks for watching to the end. This wasn't really a cheery video, but the story was so fascinating to me that I had to share it with you guys. I shall see you next week for another lesser-known story from the annals of video game history.